Did you know that the Doctor Strange movies have visual effects in over 90% of the shots? They have some crazy things like the mirror dimension, for example, and some fractal stuff. We will be talking about the house generator, the crazy fractal house, easy fractals in 1 minute, and more like this swirl here, so stay tuned. This video is sponsored by Wagon, who makes some awesomely powerful cloud PCs I used to make this intro, so stay tuned for that also. So, the opening shot you see here took inspiration from the poster of the movie and also all shots with this glass kind of shard thingies around, and also this Dark Doctor Strange cloud swirl here. I actually have already made a tutorial on this thing, and this is the tornado here. You actually only need one node to convert this tornado into this swirly thing here, and this node is the invert node. This is a heavy project, so I'm gonna use Wagon. So I'm gonna use this GPU here, and this is for about RTX 3080, and I'm gonna connect, right? So here you see this project is here rendering pretty fast on this RTX 3080, and we have two versions here. One of these versions is Cycles, which has just this background image here, right? Like that, casting light onto things and all that stuff. And then we have an Eevee version, which is actually the background. So this one here is the Eevee version of this thing. As you see, it renders very, very fast for such a volumetric mess. And this is actually the tornado. So I'm going to show you, right? I'm going to select this object here. When I add an invert node in the end here, and this looks exactly like a tornado, right? Maybe it's not so much like a cone, but it actually looks pretty much like a tornado. If I disable the invert node, we get actually just a hole in the center, which is what we need for this project. You can check out the tornado tutorial, and basically I just added some lights in the center here in the Doctor Strange colors. So this looks fantastic, but this doesn't look exactly like the end result. So what did I do then? Well, I actually used Nuke, right? I have the Cycles version, like that, and I have the Eevee version, which looks like that. So what did I do here? I actually added 3 color corrections, which are making myself a bit brighter and also making the edges darker because I want more contrast in the center, and also some grading on the background to make this in the center a bit more bright. And I also added, you know, there is a little nasty black hole here. I just merged a white rectangle there. Yeah, super professional. For the next thing, I added some volumetric rays, which look like that. You see here, like, just a little tiny effect here, and some chromatic aberration in the shards, right? So if I disable this, you see there is some kind of a chromatic aberration here. And how did I only do this in the shards? Well, I actually exported a crypto matte pass, so this gives me access to all the objects. It's also possible in Blender's compositor, and this basically gives me like an alpha channel for all the selected objects, which in this case are these two, right? Try out Nuke, it's pretty damn awesome software. Now let's talk about the mirror dimension. So in the movies, the mirror dimension is basically like a sandbox. You can do anything that you want there and nothing happens with the real world. Now to make this one here, you need procedurally generated houses. For this one here, you don't need. You can do this with even some monkeys or whatever. Let's first talk about this scene here. Pretty heavy scene, and you see here are also some fractals, which are very easy to make as well, so we're going to talk about those in a minute. Basically, I have a lot of houses here, and all these houses are generated procedurally, and this is basically procedural in the sense that I can, for example, if I don't like part of this house, I can just delete those like that, and then I have now a smaller house, right? It is all very procedural. I made this house and it has like a massive amount of geometry nodes, right? Because I was just stupid and I remade a system like 5 times. Actually, this can be made in a lot simpler way, and I'm gonna show you that on Patreon, by the way. But how did I make this thing rotate like and swirl out like that? You are asking me, right? Well, I'm doing this using the new node from Johnny Matthews in Blender, and this is duplicate elements, right? So when I disable this, it looks just like that. So what I'm doing here is this house is made of instances, right? These are just the neoclassical instances from Quixel. They are just like pieces. You can put together a house like Legos. Also here, I can now take those instances and, for example, rotate them. So if I rotate all of those instances by like, for example, 90 degrees, this should look something like that because all the instances are rotated, right? But I'm not doing this like so easily. This looks rather boring. I'm actually doing this with the duplicate elements. So basically I duplicate this and I rotate each instance a bit more using this duplicate index here. So because, you know, when I duplicate an element, for example, I don't know, there is a cube, I duplicate it, then for example, the first one has the index of 0, then the second one has 1, and if I plug this into the movement, then this moves 1, 1, 1 on all the axes, moves up like that. The second one will move here like that, and so on. I'm using this, I believe, to control the rotation, right? The X rotation to be more specific. And these things here are fractals, right? And these are made in a very easy way. So I'm gonna show you right now. So on this plane, I think I can do this in less than 1 minute. Let's try. I'm gonna add on this cube a node called extrude mesh. And also I'm gonna add now a scale elements node. Scale elements. And now I want to do so that I scale only the top part here to be smaller, right? So if I scale right now, everything becomes smaller. If I scale only the top, right, then this becomes something like that. Basically do this again. So I'm gonna extrude again like that. And I'm gonna scale the elements again using only the top, right? And this becomes something, but it's very tedious to do something like that. So instead I'm gonna shift right click drag here and here. So I'm gonna select those and I'm gonna select group, right? Now they are inside of a group like that. And what I can do is I can now take this group here and I can shift the track this like that and then like that. So basically I'm always like, I'm just going on and on and on and extruding, extruding, extruding stuff. And as you see, this is kind of like a mess. It does look pretty cool, I think. But if you want to control this and get the fractals I actually had, then what we need is to put an offset scale control here and a scale control here, right? Like that. I'm gonna track them like that. And also take them like through this thing, but this time them being smaller. So I'm gonna just divide them by 2 or multiply with 0.5, doesn't matter. Doing something like that. So now when I connect those, the offset scale to the next one and to the next one, and I'm gonna do this for all of those, then the result is gonna be pretty cool. So you see, we have this thing. This looks like the Russian. The churches, I believe, have these little onions on top of them. Yeah, now we can change this offset scale, and this looks pretty cool as a fractal. And I wasn't the one who invented this, actually. It was Crossmind Studios. We can extrude this thing upwards. We can have something like that, for example. Now, if you want to shade this, you can use the ambient occlusion node and basically control this something like that and add different colors. For example, this one could be like that. You can also make this like a glass thing, I believe. This looks pretty bad though, but basically you can animate those and do all sorts of crazy stuff with them. So, oh, this one is, yeah, this is a really cool technique. And here comes the fractal house. This is pretty taxing on your viewport, but if you have like a nice GPU like on Wagon, this works. This just works. Now if I move the main house, all the houses move like that. Or if I rotate the main house, for example, on the y-axis, then also all the houses move, and this creates this kind of a fractal shape. But now you're asking, how do you hide the overlapping parts of these houses? Magic happens in shading, and it happens pretty fast because of the GPU. Use the link in the description. But yeah, you see here, I have deleted the intersections, and to do this I'm basically creating a little like a sector for each of those houses. For that I have this node set up here called the alpha gen, which basically creates a sector. I'm going to show you in a minute how this works with monkeys, and I'm going to drive the alpha output of a house with it. So if I disconnect this, for example, I have like one house doing some weird stuff here, but if I reconnect this, it's gonna look good again. So let's do something like that. Let's add a monkey, because monkeys are really good. We could actually have lab rat 3D models because we are doing an experiment right now. And I'm gonna create 6 monkeys who are all controlled by, let's say 6 slave monkeys who are controlled by the master monkey of them all, right? Let's add the second monkey here, right? So we have the main monkey, and we have the monkey 2. For the monkey 2, I want to move this with the main monkey. How do you do this? I'm gonna drag the main monkey into the setup of the monkey 2s, and I'm going to use a transform node a transform node, and I'm going to use the location of the main monkey to drive the location of the monkey too. So if I now move those, they're both like in the same location, right? But I want this to happen hexagonally, if this is a word. So if, for example, this monkey moves down here, the main monkey, then the monkey 2 should move somewhere here, the 3, 4, 5, 6. This is not a hexagon, I think. But anyways, they have to move basically rotatedly. So what I'm going to use vector rotate. So I'm going to rotate this thing by 60 degrees using the 0, 0, 0 as the center, which is the world origin. I mean, the monkey has to be in the world origin for this to work. So if I disable these nodes here, it should be in the world origin, right? I mean, it works pretty nicely. So before we add 6 monkeys like that, we have to also deal with the rotation, because when I rotate this, it just doesn't rotate, the second monkey, I mean. So it also has to face like outwards from here. So for that, I'm gonna use the rotation. I'm basically gonna drag the rotation here. So now if I rotate, you see it does the same thing. It is always the same rotation, but it's not facing in this direction. So for that, I just have to add another transform in the middle here. And I'm gonna rotate this by, I believe, 60 degrees, because this is a hexagon, right? So now this moves like that, and it is all very nicely rotated. So I'm just gonna duplicate this monkey here like that, and like that, and like that. We should have 6 of those. And for each monkey, I'm gonna create a copy of this system like that, with this number here, and I'm gonna make the rotation now 120. I'm gonna basically add 60 degrees each time. I'm basically doing the full circle like that. This one would be 240 degrees and 240 degrees. And there is one more, and this one is gonna be, of course, 300 degrees. If you have like a pentagon, of course, these are gonna be different numbers. And now they move like that, as you see. Oh my god, this looks pretty gross, actually. Especially this part here. So I'm gonna add a material to this main monkey here, and I'm gonna go do cycles, right? Because Eevee is not very good for transparent stuff, and also switch to that notoriously fast GPU. So how do we create sectors for each monkey from here like that? We need sectors, right? So first, my idea is to create a circular gradient that goes around, and then we can just truncate this or snap this. So let's do this. First, we need texture coordinates. Okay, object coordinates, right? But these are not the right object coordinates, because when I create the gradient here, it actually is just for this one monkey, but we want this to be for all of the monkeys. So from the center of the world, right? Well, what we can do is we can just add in this middle here an empty object, and we can use this empty as the object coordinate location. So if I move this here, you see the coordinates are tied to this empty, and we can calculate things from this empty. So I'm gonna move this empty in the center currently, just so you can see what is happening. The next thing that we need is to separate X, Y, and Z, as we do pretty often here on this channel. And arctangent is what we need, right? The arctangent basically creates a circular gradient. So here, down here, it's basically minus pi, and it's going to 0, and it's going up to a pi again, because a pi is 180 degrees. Because pi is 180 degrees, so minus pi on this side, pi on this side, it's 360 degrees together. So we need to make this a usable range. So map range, we map from minus pi, and maximum would be pi, and we map to 0 here and 1 circularly. So this is working nicely, right? But we just now need a thing which is called a snap to have 6 beautiful, not beautiful, it's a beautiful, 6 beautiful sectors, right? Snap, right? We snap by half right now, but I want to snap by 1 divided by 6. And how can we select only one sector for this monkey, right? I'm gonna use another math node, of course. Everything is math. Compare. Okay, I'm gonna disable this one. So this one has values of 0, this one has 1, and these are all in between. So I'm gonna basically compare if, for example, if something is equal to 0, right? So if this is equal to 0 with a tolerance of 0. So now this gives me only this sector that I need, right? If my tolerance is too big, it's gonna also start selecting the other sectors, and I don't want this. I want this to be 0. And I can basically control the thing that is selected with this slider here, but it's very finicky. So what I actually need is a math node, and I'm gonna use a division here and divide 1 with 6. So now I have basically, it should select the first sector, I believe, right like that. And if I now add a multiplication afterwards, I can multiply this with, for example, 0. It selects the first one, a 1, the second, 2, the third, 5, the last one, right? I'm gonna move the texture coordinate thing back in the center of the world, right? As you see, the sectors are a bit like rotated right now. So if I take the empty and I rotate this empty, you see I actually have this sector here for this monkey exactly like that. And it has to be rotated by minus 30 degrees. In your case, this might be different, but in my case, it is. And I'm gonna use this as the alpha value of this monkey. And yeah, you see it is working. This monkey is transparent from this side, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing for all of the monkeys. I'm gonna select the monkey. I'm gonna use the main monkey material, make a new copy. And this one is, I believe, the sector 0, right? Visible. For this one, I'm gonna use the main monkey again, and this one is sector 1. So now I have done the same thing for all the monkeys, and I can rotate those, and to see there is a monkey fractal happening. You can do this with anything and with any shapes, and if you see some like weird like black things happening, this is just that you need some more transparent light bounces. So I'm gonna up this to 12, and this disappears. Or maybe you need even more. And we have gone over everything except the disintegration part that you see quite a lot in the trailer. If you break down the system, it is the same house, and the tentacle system, or the disintegration. I call this tentacles because this is actually the same system from the Venom. It's not Venom, it's Venom, from the Venom video. And basically house disintegration looks like that. I'm gonna rotate the instances just based on the proximity to what? I believe there's an empty somewhere. Yeah, I found it. It's here. So here is an empty, and if I move this empty, for example, it's gonna like do something like that with the house. So that's mirror dimension at its finest, I think. Now there are the tentacles. I called those tentacles. There are not actually, but the system is basically tentacles. I mean, I'm just instancing some. Where is the thing? I'm gonna instance some curves, basically, just some curves on this house. And the pieces in the air are just actually the same curves, but I instanced some random cubes on them. This is literally trash modeling. Look at this thing here, like, what is it? It is just a random piece, and I used a lot of those random pieces on those tentacles, right? You can check out all the files if you want to learn more about this. It's a bit of a long process, I can't show everything here. Probably also have questions about these volume stuff around here, which is basically these are clouds, these are VDB clouds, because I tried procedural ones, but they render pretty slowly. So I downloaded some, you know, there are cloud packs online and they work very, very nicely. I personally like this scene the best that I did. This was also one of the heaviest to render because of those clouds. And if you have also a heavy scene, a heavy project, then Wagon is definitely something you should try. I mean, you can get $5 for free if you use my link in the description. Try it out. You can get for about 4 hours of usage with this link. So try out Wagon and see you next time.